Hi, friends. I'm Bobby Lehue, the Chief Content Officer at commonsku. Today, I get to chat with Jesse Genet from Lumi. Lumi creates beautiful boxing experiences, custom packaging for brands all over the world, like Parachute, Tuft and Needle, and many popular e-commerce brands. We recorded this for our event called Product Summit Holiday, where the event was focused all around gifting, employee gifts, client gifts. So today, Jesse and I talk about building beautiful unboxing moments. Here's my chat with Jesse. Jesse, I'm going to start with just a really basic question. We're a product industry, 20 plus $billion industry that focuses 95% of our energy on the product and about 5% of our energy on the packaging. Maybe it's not fair because a lot of folks love every aspect of the business, but you're a packaging business. And so what is it about packaging? And your show, by the way, which I love, celebrates unboxing the coolest brands and how they've built the unboxing experience to be a part of the overall branding element. So I'm going to ask the basic question, why is gifting and packaging for gifting so important?
So I think that it just really relates to how much receiving packages at home is a part of our lives now,
Mhm.
and how much we sort of take that for granted. It's like receiving something that we ordered online is so common. It's like breathing air. Like we just like order things, they show up. But in relation to in the sands of time, it's still a rather new experience for human beings. Just receive a bunch of stuff in boxes on their doorstep, and I think that because it's becoming the dominant way of receiving a lot of these products, meaning you didn't learn about that product on a shelf or see it at a friend's house first. You saw it on your doorstep first. That unboxing and that getting to know that product and that brand through packaging is becoming a huge part of the brand experience for these products and companies. And I think that just really elevates it in like its importance generally.
You actually break down the entire element of the unboxing experience from the outward packaging all the way to void fill. You kind of go on the outside all the way in and you kind of
Yeah,
share this experience.
yeah,
And I've watched a few of your shows and I love, for example, the elephant skincare line and
yeah,
what they do.
yeah.
What is it about the elements of outside packaging all the way through into void fill and everything else that matters? What have you discovered that are the most important elements?
Yeah, I got a lot of pattern recognition, right? Like I think everyone now does actually. Like I wouldn't say I'm super unique. Everyone has opened hundreds or even thousands of
Right.
e-commerce packages at this point, but when I open them, I pay special attention to the details. So I would say that each layer of packaging presents a unique opportunity to have a really big impact on someone. And then each layer of packaging is also serving a functional purpose. So brands
Mhm.
that do a great job are striking the balance of both things. They're serving that functional purpose in the best way possible with each layer. So is it something fragile? Well, then your outer package better be protective, right? Like, and is it something soft and easy to put in an envelope? Well, then your outer packaging can serve that function and be soft. And so, using each layer of packaging to the best of its ability and being creative and putting your own creative spin on it, that's the trick. And the creative spin isn't very meaningful if you didn't serve the initial purpose, right? Who cares if you received a really cool looking package if it was wine glasses and they're all broken on the inside? You're not
Right.
really, it doesn't matter how cool the packaging was. You're going to think that it was bad packaging because the product is broken, or if the product is leaking or looks disheveled. So I think that that can be overlooked. Like packaging is first and foremost functional, and each layer needs to serve its purpose. And then you can get creative.
Since you've explored so many of these cool brands that do great packaging, are there a few that really stick out in your mind so that we can sort of jump to their brands as an example?
Yeah, for sure. So we work, I first of all, I respect with a bunch of e-commerce packaging, whether Lumi works with these brands or not. But of course, I've gotten more of a first-hand experience of a lot of packaging that Lumi, that where brands do order through Lumi. One that I think is kind of underrated that I particularly love is a company called Native. Native started as a direct-to-consumer brand. They still very much are a direct-to-consumer brand, but they've also been acquired by P&G and also have their product on the shelves at Target and other big retailers as well now. Started with deodorant, have many things. What I love is that they achieve this balance really well of simplicity in their packaging, but also having a lot of fun with it. And so an example would be that when you order, just a couple SKUs from them, you usually get it in an envelope because deodorant is not breakable usually, so you don't need to receive a big rigid packaging with it.
Right.
But that envelope says "Yay, I'm here" in like really bold letters,
I
and
love
it's
that.
fully recyclable. They also do a thing that is new in the past year, where you can order deodorant tube deodorant that instead of coming in its plastic normal deodorant tube comes in a spiral paper tube, instead zero plastic. So they've taken like packaging innovation all the way, talk about those layers, all the
Yeah.
way through to touching the product and allowing people to express their values of like, I want to be plastic free with the product itself. But just that attention to detail and then having a lot of fun with the copy, like saying "Yay, I'm here," making little jokes. I think that stuff is underappreciated. So that would be one example that comes to mind.
Two things I love about that. One is that's how we feel when we get packages at our door. We're
Yeah,
like, oh, what did I order? I mean, I get a surprise twice when I order and I forget what I
yeah,
ordered. And when I get it at the door, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot I ordered this. But one thing that you pointed out was that the packaging is like the drum roll of the entire experience, right? It's just this
yeah.
entire buildup. And so that's what you've done really well with the show is you've exemplified this buildup from outer packaging all the way through into the inner packaging.
Yeah, and on the copy front, there's several brands I feel like who do this really well, where the packaging speaks for itself. And when I say it speaks for itself, I mean literally like the packaging copy is
Right.
talking about the packaging. Like it says like, "Please recycle me," or on the bottom it's like, "I'm made out of 80% post recycled post consumer content." Um, that's not every brand's voice and tone. Some brands will want to go a different direction, but I like that. I think it's because I'm a packaging geek, but I think it's kind of fun, and it also just displays a level of creativity. Another example that verges in a really different direction would be a company called Rockets of Awesome. Rockets of Awesome is a children's clothing company, and they have an outer box, a rigid outer box that has a briefcase form factor, and actually has a handle on the outside, and so like kids can pick it up and kind of carry it around like a briefcase. And on the inside the printing is like very much like a coloring book, so you can actually like unfold that box and kids can like draw all over the inside within the lines. Like they've got beautiful illustrations in there, so you've got the briefcase aspect and the drawing in the inside. And it's like that's a lot of like utility out of just that box that the kids clothes came in.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. The classic challenge used to be when you would buy a special gift for your kid, they end up playing with the box more than the gift. So
Mhm.
this is great. You're actually amplifying that experience and saying, okay, we're going to just up the game a little bit. Are you seeing trends? You and I talked in our last interview. I
Yeah,
once ran a fulfillment company, and
yeah,
so there were packaging things that changed. One example is the old horrendous peanuts that we used to package things. Are
oh yeah,
there
our favorite.
That's awful. Are there changes now that you're seeing in how the best brands are packaging that we should be aware of?
Yeah, I think that I'll mention one very macro one, and then we can talk about some more details. But one macro one is that the best brands are using as little packaging as possible. They're including less components, and they are really optimizing for dimensional weight,
Yeah.
meaning small shipping envelopes, as small a volume as you can, because how much space a package takes up in a mail bag, in a truck, in the belly of a airline, is how much how much it not only costs, so it's not, but it also has sustainability and emissions impact. The actual, because if you can fit 10,000 packages in that truck as opposed to 5,000 because the box is bulkier, you are wasting the same amount of gas, the amount of human time delivering and things like that. So I would say the best in class brands now are very conscious of material usage, volume usage, and the way that you see that in the physical packaging is more envelopes, more envelope form factors, less void fill overall.
Yeah.
Like instead of thinking, oh, instead of peanuts and now crushed paper is in, kind of like trend wise, it's actually like neither thing is in. What's in is having no air in your package.
Yeah.
And so being really efficient, which I know I think we touched on a little bit, but that goes all the way to the product. Can your product be smaller, more compact,
Mm,
like
yeah.
less fragile, so you can put more in them together? The innovation is going all the way to the product in terms of how can they ship better.
That's a great point because in our industry, we have access to near a million product options for corporate clients that are trying to do gifting. And we can think through where we can sort of help our customers is we can think through the packaging and how it's going to be delivered based on those efficiencies. So
Yeah.
we actually have a luxury. We're not like a e-commerce brand that's sort of stuck with one product that they have to re-engineer. We can actually choose many different products for our gifting options.
Yeah.
Um, are
And
there
that highlights like you can consider the packaging all the way from the product moment. Like let's just take something like a water bottle. Like you can probably put more aluminum, water bottles together because they're not going to rub and break. You might want to wrap them, but they're not going to rub and break in the same way glass would. And so so because of that natural fact, you can put more together, they ship lighter. So it's like, so depending on the product selection, you actually have huge packaging impacts and like rippling ramifications, basically.
I was going to ask, going back to our original conversation about just making a celebratory experience, just building an experience with packaging, we are often in a position where we might have to convince buyers, corporate buyers, to
Yeah.
actually invest in good packaging.
Yeah.
But I almost was going to ask you, how do we do that? But I wonder if this is correct, and you can maybe expound on this, is that the way we can help sell our clients on the whole experience and not just the product that we're delivering is possibly create understanding all of the elements that make up a great experience. So you have the colorways on a packaging experience, you have the copy, you have the efficient use of packaging. Are there other key elements that I'm missing when it comes to convincing someone to do beautiful packaging?
I think riffing off of what we just said, sometimes it's what's not there. Sometimes what's not there actually says a lot about the experience. Removing unnecessary things,
Yeah.
unnecessary, additional elements. And then additional element might be the void fill. Like, if the default was just putting it in something and packing with a lot of void fill, it's like it's basically, there's a design adage of look at what you're about to put out in the world and ask yourself what can be removed. The more you can
Yeah.
take away, the more the original thing you're trying to create actually shines. So in this case, I think the mental kind of challenge to give yourself is you want the product you're shipping to shine, the thing that the person actually ordered, right? Like it sounds
Yeah.
obvious, but it's actually not always obvious. So what can you do to create like a pedestal for that, so there's not too much cruft, like
Yeah.
distracting people from what they ordered? So is it a beautiful water bottle, beautiful notebook? Then how can that shine? And the more that's around it distracting, the potentially less that item really pops and shines. And I think that one other motivating factor, I don't like to use fear kind of to motivate people, but I do think that this is relevant for brands being motivated, which is that you can unfortunately develop a beautiful product or beautiful gifting experience, and it can be ruined by the packaging.
Yeah.
We deal with brands, I'll remain nameless on this one, where they're experiencing a backlash from consumers or from employees who receive packages from them because that wholly related to the packaging. Like I
Yeah.
received this and there was too much space in it, too much void fill, too many plastic components. And so the focus now is having nothing to do with all of the energy and attention that went into the product, and people are just judging the packaging, and there can be actually a vocal backlash. So that piece is just like, get it, you want to get it right, dial it in, have
Yeah.
that be copacetic with that product experience and not distracting.
Well, that answered my question about forethought versus afterthought. We often think of packaging as an afterthought. We have to be very thoughtful about what's going to happen, because we're all now, I mean, everyone in this listening has had this experience where you received a package and you're throwing away 99% of what you just received.
Yeah.
And the modern buyer and the modern consumer is far more conscientious and aware of
Yeah.
that kind of waste.
Well, I'm gonna do hopefully it's okay. I'm gonna do a small Lumi plug. This is a free tool we have, so it's not a plug. It's something someone needs to buy. But we recently created this tool that's just on the URL lumi.com/explore, and it's a library of packaging imagery. And when you click into each image, it tells you all the packaging terminology relating to that, what you're looking at. And to me, this is a big gap in knowledge that leads a lot of people
Yeah.
to not getting the packaging that they want, is they don't know how to describe it. So they might know like, oh, I've got it in my mind's eye. It's a box that kind of goes like this. And then there was like a thing that held the product. And it's like, thing that held the product is not a packaging term, unfortunately, right? So
Right.
there's this gap in communication that leads people to not getting the packaging that they want. And there's a lot of ways to work on that, but we've created this explore tab where you can click into an image of packaging and it gives you all the packaging terminology for what you're looking at. And we hope that to be a jumping off point for packaging quoting and getting bridging that gap. But to your point, why is it an afterthought? This is why. I think people don't have the words
Yeah.
and they don't know what to ask for, basically.
Yeah, that's a great point. And in our world, we can talk about that. Okay, customers will often reach out to us for the product, and it can be a very strategic conversation. Okay, we've talked about the product, but in context, let's talk about the packaging, the arrival, the experience. But what I love about that too is it makes the whole conversation with the client very efficient. So I can go to a tool like that and not have to send a lot of back and forth, or us going on the internet trying to figure out how many different packaging options exist in the world, which there are tons.
That's daunting. Basically, the daunting nature of custom packaging. Custom packaging is by nature, there's infinite options because it's custom. And I think that is actually one of the big holdups between like where people are with their ideas and what the execution ends up, because they run out of time, they don't make decisions, they don't know the terms involved and
Yeah.
how to ask for it, and then they just end up putting it in a poly mailer or putting it in a big box with a bunch of void fill just because they run out of time, basically.
Two last questions. One is, where do you go for inspirational advice and just resources? I mean, are there brands you follow that you absolutely love? Who are at the top of your list? That's a hard question because you're like this sponge. It's constantly out
Yeah.
there.
Well, so I guess as kind of a packaging, a little bit more of a packaging geek, I tend to be inspired by stuff, either kind of two ends of the spectrum, either really simple and it's so simple but creative that I love it because I'm like, that is really kind of ingenious, or brands running at the fringe of like what even is shippable, because they have to make really weird decisions that are like at the fringe. So I'll give both those examples. At the simple level, there's a water company. So water is like, it's like, is it even a product? I mean, is it massive industry? So the answer is yes, but it's like water, right? It's like, it's very basic. But there's a company called Liquid Death. So the brand name is Liquid Death. They are selling both direct on e-commerce and also retail. So they've develop packaging that works for both. But they sell water. The brand name is hilariously kind of like fun. And they have really intense graphics. It's like, it's more akin to an alcohol brand. And
Yeah.
that's intentional, because when their point is actually you could be drinking water like at a party or whatever and not be embarrassed that you're the person
Right.
drinking water.
I've had their mineral water, so I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
So the simplicity of it and creativity is what I love. Like, it's aluminum cans, which is infinitely better for the environment than plastic bottles that people often end up in landfills. And then the outer cartons are fun. It looks like it's vodka or like something really intense. So all of that, and again, it's just water. Like, there's no crazy
Right.
innovation happening, but
Right.
design. So I love that. I love seeing, arguably with a product like water, packaging is all there is like, because the
Yeah.
product is water. I'm sure it's very high quality water, but you know what
That's a
I mean,
great
right?
point. I love it.
So it's like that product is packaging. And
Yeah.
I love the execution there. A different example would be brands that have unique challenges to contend with. One that comes to mind is Misfit Produce. They ship produce that got cast off by regular grocery stores. Really kind of noble mission. Like there's carrots that like, are crooked and stuff, but they're just fine. And so
Right.
so they sell Misfit Produce. But selling produce on e-commerce is no easy feat logistically. Selling something that perishes, something fragile that perishes, needs temperature control. So I see brands like that making a lot of interesting moves in their packaging, insulation, logistics, because it's just very complicated.
Mm,
And then the last one I'd mention, because I just think it needs to be mentioned, that some brands are reinventing the product in order to have cool packaging. Is a brand like Blue Land. Blue Land is so like hand soap, cleaning supplies, and the core premise is that a lot of the things you order like that, whether it's Windex or hand soap, are mostly water. Like it's 90 to 95% water. And when you're shipping water, like from a distribution center in Texas to your house in Pennsylvania or something, it's incredibly wasteful. And so Blue Land is tab based. They ship you the beautiful containers, and then you fill it with water and you put a tab in, and it turns into soap for like laundry soap. And they're always launching new
yeah.
categories. I think a company like that, there's several companies working on that premise, but a company like that challenges your assumptions about what is even packaging? What are these
Yeah.
products? We should reinvent these products for e-commerce. So those things all kind of impress me in very different ways, right? From
Yeah.
simple
Yeah.
to complex.
I love it. Jesse, thank you. This has been, as always, such an informative conversation with you, whether we're talking about sustainability, whether we're talking about creative packaging. Folks, I encourage you to go check out Lumi's website, Lumi. And Jesse, thanks again for joining us. I'm
Yeah,
thrilled to talk with you anytime.
awesome. Okay, hopefully this was useful. It was such fun speaking with you.